Alignagi in November. Well, Vedrum Corluca and Ilana were both expected to return to Manchester City's lineup as they take on EB Straymore of the Faroe Islands in the UEFA Cup at Oakwell this evening. We'll have full match commentary from 8 o'clock here on BBC Radio Manchester. And in Rugby League, Warrington forward Vinnie Anderson could miss the rest of the season with a shoulder injury. He picked up in a game against Huddersfield. Anderson is now awaiting the results of a scan to see whether he'll play again this year.
BBC Radio Manchester, satellite weather with Diane Oxford.
We've got a real mixed bag today. The morning has been okay, but over the next couple of hours you'll start to see showers popping up around the Pennines. They could end up being really heavy, and into the afternoon a band of rain sweeps in. Some of this could have some torrential downpours. There could be some thunder as well, but despite all of this, it's still warm. Top temperature 23 Celsius.
Have lunch with Allan Beswick.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Oh, yeah, you all right? Good. Well, good if you said yes. If you said no, I feel horrible, then that, obviously not good to that. I suppose if I said, you're all right, and you said no, my truthful answer would be, well, so what? I don't really care. It's just one of them things you say. You know? Oh, a little bit of honesty sneaking in when we're not looking. Telephone number if you wish to join us today, 0161 228 2255. And you can talk about absolutely anything, I don't mind. Whatever subject you fancy, we'll have a stab at it. It's an easy life. And the text number, if you're more of a thumb speaker, is 07786206951. And you can email at radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk. So those are the means of communication. I do from time to time mention the snail mail address, which is Allan Beswick at BBC Radio Manchester, P.O. Box 951, Manchester, M61SD. That's it. There's nothing else. You could send Morse code, which I can read. These days it has to be fairly slow for me to manage it. I'm a little out of practice, but you can send Morse code, and if you do, I don't have a process by which I can receive it. So there. Somebody sent me a Morse code on an MP3, which was, I'm told, would have been fabulous, except I don't know how to listen to an MP3 in here. I've got a iPod. Or I had a iPod. My iPod was stolen in France. As I said, there's some poor beggar driving round Marseille right now listening to Leonard Cohen and a recitation of For Whom the Bell Tolls, which is a pretty tedious book, I can tell you, or War and Peace. That's it. That's what he's got. So he'll be hanging from a lamppost in Marseille. 0161 228 2255. Let's start off with Irene in Shaw. Hiya, Irene.
Hiya, Alan.
What can we do for you?
Well, first of all, I enjoy listening to your show every day.
Oh, my word.
Well, whenever I can. I'm not doing anything else. But my problem is, about 16 days ago, I joined a broadband provider, and on Monday I received the wireless router as they'd promised they would send me. I followed the instructions, and it all seemed to be going really well, but I haven't been able to get onto the broadband. The screen just says, have you connected a network cable between your computer and the router? Well, I have. I've done everything. And I've rung up the technical helpline 5 times. And 4 times they haven't got back onto me. And I feel really frustrated with all this. I wondered if your listeners have had this problem and how they solved it, because I'm struggling here. And the other thing I wanted to ask you, how will I stand if I cancel my direct debit at this point, because I'm going to be charged £30 for this wireless router and all these phone calls, and I've not had any joy.
Frankly, I don't know what company it is, and I don't want to know. But frankly, if you've done everything that it told you to do on the instructions and it's not worked, you probably would be better off just saying forget it and going with a different company. And for that, you need to simply write to them and say, thank you for sending me the wireless router and all the rest of it. It's on its way back to you, because it doesn't work. And I'm cancelling my contract.
Right.
Full stop. And cancel the direct debit and all the rest of it.
Right. Well,
because if it doesn't work, there's no point in paying for it.
That's right. That's just what I'm thinking. But I've just spoken to my bank people, and they've said I may be charged for cancelling this.
Well, that would be a matter of the relationship between you and your bank, because you're giving them alternative instructions.
All right.
So that would be up to your bank whether they charge you or not. You've obviously got one of those skinflint banks, and there do seem to be more of those about at the moment.
Well,
but there's nothing that can be done about that.
Well, I understood them to say that the broadband provider would charge me for cancelling it. Have I got that wrong?
Well, the broadband provider, I mean, what your bank are advising you there is if you cancel and it turns out you didn't have the right to cancel, they will, the broadband provider, say, well, you've signed a contract with the broadband provider.
Well, I haven't actually. I've just give them all my details. And
Well, okay,
say
but you have agreed a contract
Yeah.
with them. And the contract you've agreed is that you will use their service for a specific time. A minimum time, probably 12 months. It might be, okay, 12 months, and you will pay them X amount per month for the whole of that period. That's what you've agreed.
Yeah.
Now, if you cancel that without legitimate reason, they're entitled to say, no, we still want the money, because you've agreed that you will give us £30 a month for 12 months, you owe us 360 quid, less anything you've paid.
Right.
But that's the contract. They've got an obligation to provide you with a system that works and a process of connecting it.
Yeah, yeah.
So, if they sell you something that doesn't work, the contract is broken by them.
That's what I
so you
thought.
don't have to pay.
Right.
So you can either continue to wriggle about with it, trying to work out how it works, or you can cancel it and get your money back. Well,
Right.
you've not paid any money, but cancel all the payments and just say it didn't work, it hasn't worked, forget it.
So, do you recommend I send it back by registered post or something?
No, not by registered. I wouldn't bother with all that. I would, first of all, by way of process, I would ring them up. And not their how do you make it work department, but ring their headquarters where you bought it from.
Well, would you believe there's no telephone number for that?
Well, how did you order it?
How did I order it? I went on the library computer and I weighed up the best one I thought to get, and I got a telephone number off there. That's how I got it.
Right, well, go back to the library and get that phone number again. You've not got that number written down somewhere?
I probably have now.
Exactly.
You mention it, yeah.
Well, ring that number and say, thank you for supplying it, it doesn't work, I'm cancelling the contract, goodbye.
Right. I just feel like doing that. I'm so frustrated.
Well, yeah. Let me ask some daft questions. I've loaded broadband onto my computer twice, because I changed firms a few years back. And you've done the CD thing, haven't you?
Yeah,
You've put
yeah.
that in, you've done all
went
that.
perfectly, so, yeah.
Yeah, you did the right one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've done all the things about getting it to... Are you using a wireless system? You sound like...
Well, it's supposed to be, but I've got all these wires coming out of it, so I'm not sure.
Right, okay. Well, a couple of things. Wireless is one of those funny... They call radios wireless. If ever you take the back off one of the old-fashioned ones, you'll wonder why. So the wireless is about whether you've got a wireless connecting your computer to the gadget. It sounds to me, your router, is it a wireless router?
Yeah.
Or it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a modem.
It's not a modem,
No.
right. So you know more about it than me.
No, I don't.
So you do. Everybody does. So you've got your wireless router connected to the system, to the phone line with one of them special plugs.
Yeah.
You've got all that with the
Everything.
filter and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've loaded it up. Now on your computer, does your computer tell you that it is recognising a Wi-Fi system?
I don't know. The screen it tests it, and all these circular things are going on screen, and then it comes up with, have you connected the network cable between your computer and the router? And I thought, yes, I have. And
well, hang on a minute. You shouldn't have a network cable between the router and your computer if it's wireless.
Right. Well, I don't know then. This is what I had the option of doing a wireless one or another one.
Okay. Well, if you've chosen to do the wireless one, the only wires should be the wire from the router plugging it to the electricity supply,
Right.
Right, so there's one with a plug on it, a 3-pin plug. You've got that.
Yeah.
Right. And another wire going from the router to the telephone socket,
Yeah.
which
Got that.
has in it a plug for the phone, which
Yeah.
you've taken out, and then you
Yeah.
put another plug in, and on the end of that plug is about 6 inches long, the bit of wire, and there's a box, and there's 2 plug holes in the box, one for the phone and one for the wireless router.
Yeah. I've done
Right.
that. Yeah.
It's beginning to sound like, now I'm not a computer expert, but it's beginning to sound like you're asking your computer to look for, you're not asking your computer to look for the wireless, if you'll pardon the expression, the wireless system, because it's telling you that you need a wire. It's saying, have you connected the wire from the router to your computer?
That's right.
Well, there's no need. If it's a wireless system, there's no need of a wire from the router to your computer. There's no need of a wire. It's a wireless system. So it might be when you've gone through the process, you've not told it that you want it to deal with the router wirelessly.
Right. All I do is go along with what it's asking me to do, and I've just applied everything that they said.
But there are often 2 options.
Yeah.
One is wireless, and
Yeah.
one is, for want of a better term, cable, direct. Now, if your computer is telling you that is questioning whether you've connected the cable,
Yeah.
it can only be because it's inviting you to do it by cable.
Yeah. That sounds more like it.
Does your wireless router have 4 green lights on it?
It does.
Okay.
And they're all solid green.
They're all solid green, right.
Whereas the online light just doesn't show up at all. It's off.
Where's the online light?
It's at the end of these green ones.
Right. Then I'm confused, because I don't understand why your computer's telling you to connect a wire to your router, because you've got a wireless router. Yeah? So there shouldn't be a wire. That's the nearest I can get. Lots of people have been listening to this, and some of them will have understood some of it. I'm neither of them. And it's beginning to look like you aren't either. Irene, stay tuned.
Yeah, I
Right, so
will.
keep the radio on and listen.
Yeah, I will.
And if you hear anything from the people who are ringing right now to tell us what's going on,
Yeah.
if you hear anything that makes sense, try it, and if it doesn't work,
Yeah.
then come back on. All right, but you do have the right to pack the whole thing in. But it might be a bit unfortunate that it might be that there's something simple we can do. So all right, so we'll say ta-ra now.
All right.
Put your phone down, listen on the radio,
Okay.
and we'll see whether anyone comes up with the answer.
Okay. Keep
All
up the
right.
good work, Alan.
Well, we'll find out whether it's good work, whether we get your router working or not.
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right, thank you very much indeed. You may have spotted that I am some distance out of my depth on this matter, but there are those that understand, I'm sure. 0161228 2255 if you want to join us. A stolen iPod, says Norman. All I can say, Alan, is thank God, sorry goodness there was no Beswick Live programmes on the device. Oh, come on, Norman, I'm not stupid. I'm not going to put this rubbish on my iPod. P.S. about broadband. I merely read it as it comes. This is what Norman says. We changed from Virgin to BT a few years ago. It was a nightmare. The initial configuration disc and quickly changed back to Virgin, but we're now having major continual connection problems with fibre optic. Virgin want to change, wondering if BT have improved. I don't know whether BT have improved. I changed from Supernet to BT about 5 years ago, and I've had no problems with the internet, as it were, with broadband. I've had other problems. Oh, you want to hear my problems? Oh my God, you'd be up all night.
This is the Northwest's biggest sports station. This is BBC Radio Manchester. No one covers more of Manchester sports.
Pride of Manchester.
Football, rugby league, rugby union, boxing, speedway, cricket, athletics, ice hockey. The all-new Manchester Sports. Coming soon to the Northwest's biggest sports station.
Where's that then?
BBC Radio Manchester.
Really? Good Lord. Well, there you are. That doesn't mean I'll have to do sport, does it? God almighty, there's some levels to which we try not to stoop. It's 12:20, BBC Radio Manchester News headlines with Anna Dawson.
Detectives investigating the theft of 3,000 blank passports in Oldham earlier this week have made an arrest. Officers say it's understood to be the delivery man who was with the driver of the van that was targeted. A man from Salford says he's willing to risk his own life so his wife can get the cancer treatment she needs. Jean Murphy from Salford needs the kidney cancer drug Sutent, but her local healthcare trust doesn't provide it. Her husband says he's willing to stop taking his own medication for diabetes in protest. And the parent company of British Gas, Centrica, has reported that its profits for the first half of 2008 are down by about a fifth on the same period last year. Yesterday, British Gas raised gas prices by 35% and electricity prices by 9%. Manchester's weather dry but turning showery later, highs of 23 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Looking pretty good at the moment, no accidents or incidents to pass on to you. But in the city centre, we do have Key Street closed off because of water mains work. That's between Deansgate and Byram Street. Also in Altrincham, Ashley New Road southbound, that's closed off for road works between Cross Street and Ashley Road. And if you're travelling in Wigan today, we've got a lane closed because of gas mains work on the A49 Warrington Road, southbound at Maris Bridge at the roundabout there. So be aware of some possible delays if that's your route. And also in Warrington, there's roadworks and restrictions on the A49 Winnick Road at Owen Street. Anything else that you may spot yourself, please do call in 0161 244 4951. I'm Helen Wakefield.
Decongesting Manchester, one car at a time. 2020 traffic.
BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. Hang on, here we go. Wait a minute. Oh, really? Well, I never did that. Right. Well, that's it. I never did that. Don't care what you say. Nick in Denton. Hiya, Nick.
Hello, Alan. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. The young lady who's got a problem with her wireless router.
Yes.
I've had exactly the same issue about a month ago when I bought a brand new wireless router.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what I did, I had a problem with my sort of hardwired system, so I thought, rather than crawl under floorboards, I'll get a wireless router. And of course, the wireless connection, the telephone socket's in a completely different place to the computer, so you think, right, well, that'll be fine.
Yeah.
I got to exactly the same point as the young lady got to, and he said, you've not connected your cable. And I thought, well, that's a bit strange, because I don't want to be running cables, because it's supposed to be wireless. So I had exactly the same dilemma. And so I rang a man who knew, a mate of mine who's a bit of a whiz with these computers and what have you. So basically I checked, and what you have to do, she should have received an additional cable. Mine was bright yellow, but I don't know whether that's got any significance. And basically it's a cable that you connect between your modem router thing, the thing that's got a little aerial bit on it, and the back of your computer.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what that does, it sort of marries up your modem box, if you like, or your aerial box, whatever you want to call it, with your actual computer. So they have to be able to talk to each other first before they can establish a wireless link.
Right.
And basically that's what I had to do. So I plugged them both in, ran the software again. He said, thank you very much, well done, you can now disconnect it. I disconnected it and the wireless worked, and it's worked perfectly ever since.
Right. Okay,
I did need to connect it.
Thank you for that. I have to tell you that we, I've now said that I'm with BT. We have exactly the same system as the one that Irene has got, and we didn't have to connect that with a wire. Yeah. Because my computer's about, it's a damn long way in wire terms from that.
Mine was the same. Basically, I ended up taking... It worked fine with my desktop, with my laptop, because I could just plug that in and it was easy. But my desktop that's in the back room in the office had to take to pieces, bring it through into the hall, sit in the hall with the bloody thing all wired up, and then and then do it there, because obviously the length of cable that they give you is about 2 metres long.
Well, yes,
so.
quite, because you don't need that long. All right, well, thank you for that, Nick. That may well work.
It worked for me, and it was a Netgear piece of kit that I got, so if it's the same stuff, I think it's a pretty standard piece of kit, so
all right,
give it a try. You never know.
You never know, indeed. Irene, that could be the answer. Jason in Dobb Cross says, if Irene pulls the power plug for the router out of the socket, in other words, unplugs it, and then plugs it in again, it might solve the problem. That's what I do when mine's playing up. Well, maybe that's an answer. It's worth a try, I guess. Everything's worth a try that, on the face of it at least, doesn't do harm. Let's have a look. 2 points referring to Irene. I suggest that the router be connected via a cable. You're not the first to say that. This is often recommended as a starting point because sometimes the wireless system can cause problems initially, and using a cable connection at least will eliminate possible wireless communication problems. Having achieved success with the hardwire method, at least the lady will know that her computer and router are, quote, talking to each other. Frankly, if the computer is to be kept in one location, the wiring method is to be kept in one location. The wiring method is a better option in that security is enhanced. You're not radiating your location to others via the wireless system. That's Bill in Royton. And others have said that you get an Ethernet. That's one of those odd cables. You get an Ethernet cable. And if you connect it with the Ethernet cable, that will help establish it if it's having trouble making contact. Wireless routers should have a transmitter normally plugged into a sub-socket on the rear of the computer to help the radio link. So there's that. Yeah, we on the old system we used to have an external aerial because the wireless system wasn't strong enough. But once we went over to the one we're with now, that problem was eliminated. Daz said that Irene needs to check that a line is enabled with the provider. I provide a setup service in Manchester for a donation if you want to give her my number. Well, there you are. So he comes round and sets it up. I don't know what the donation goes to. Does it go to you, Daz? Nothing wrong with that. A man must eat. But anyway, interesting. So all sorts of people know what to do. It's just that I'm not one of them. Has the lady got a wireless card in her computer? Some wireless routers need to be set up with a wired connection first. Alan, some wireless routers need to be connected to the computer by the wire first so it can be set up and then disconnect it when it's finished the setup. It sounds like one of the things you ought to try, Irene, is you should have another piece of wire in your box of tricks, and that piece of wire would... It's called an Ethernet wire. It's one with an odd plug on the end. And you connect it to your computer and then to the wireless router, and it sets it all up. But that does mean carrying your computer all the way to where your router is, or getting a long enough wire for your router to reach your computer. It does seem a very strange thing to do. Peter says, the stuff you said got pinched when you were on earlier. Did you pay him to take it? That's not funny. That is not funny at all. No, I didn't. I don't mind some of the stuff he took, like credit cards and all that, because of course we get shut at that. That doesn't matter. But dearie me. No, I mean some very important stuff. An expensive camera and my wife's camera, which is an expensive one. My camera, which is comparatively inexpensive. That went there. Stuff went, and my rucksack. I like that rucksack. And my binoculars. Can't see a bloody thing now. Hi, Alan. I'm going logging today for my winter fire. I'm also looking for a miner's helmet to walk round the house. Do any listeners know where I can get a tin bath? I've no idea what that's about. It's probably better that I don't, really. Look, it's no good getting on at me. I didn't get us talking about computers. Frankly, I can manage without conversations about computers. I can. I have very little interest in computers. They're just machines. And frankly, machines are best, well, they're best used, really, and not discussed. Yeah, I mean, there are people that can sit and talk for hours about computers, but frankly, I don't see the point. They're just machines. Wireless routers should have a transmitter normally plugged into a USB socket on the rear of the computer to establish a radio link to the router similar to a radio microphone system. Yeah, well, that doesn't apply to us. It may apply to others, but we're on Apple. And my Apple computer has all that gubbins in it at the back. It comes ready, pre-gubbinsed. That's the thing about Apple. They come pre-gubbinsed. In fact, when I connected it up, when I replaced my computer and switched it on, it actually told me, it said, hey, you've got a internet thingamajig. Do you want us to go and connect with it? So I said yes. Well, you do. Oh, Keith's back up. Hi, Alan. If you're using a laptop, it will have the wireless aerial built in. With a PC, you have to connect to the aerial or the router with a cable. I'm getting an headache now, and I think my eyes are starting to bleed. But Irene has been taking notes, and she's got a very, very sore hand now from writing all that. Alan, you need to use the network cable so that you can set up the wireless connection when you set up broadband for the first time. Simon in Warrington, thank you very much. That might be because it's a PC. It might just be because it's not very good. Brian, no, Alan, the router needs to be connected to the PC via the Ethernet cable, which your caller has done. It can then send out wireless signals. So apparently this seems to be a theme developing here, Irene. The theme is that you should have what's known as an Ethernet cable. An Ethernet cable will have a plug on it that will fit to your wireless router and will fit in the back of your computer. Probably a USB connector on one end and one of them more squarey ones on the other end. Yeah. And if you connect that apparently will allow your computer and the router to talk to each other to establish the connection, and then after that you can disconnect it and they will then be able to talk to each other generally. Okay. And the other thing that Keith says is that wireless option on the PC. On your PC, you may well not have selected the wireless option, which is what I was hinting at earlier. Okay, well, you try all those, Irene. That should kill another month or so. Yeah, you try all those, and if you've done all those and it still doesn't work, then come back on and we'll see if we can do it again. Yeah, certainly, I don't know where we go from there, but let us know how you go on having tried that, and if at the end of it you're still fed up, then just dump it. Ted in Moston introduces politics, and all the better for that. He says, all hell is going to break loose in Serbia if Karadzic goes to prison. The Serbian people are sick and tired of being stepped upon. For nearly 1,000 years, just about everyone has mistreated them in some way. The Ottoman Turks invaded Serbia in the 11th century, subjugating the Serbs for the next 700 years. Most recently, the Americans bombed the hell out of the country. I can guarantee that Karadzic is not guilty of genocide. Under international law, imprisoning large numbers of people with intent to kill them is only defined as genocide if women and children are also killed, which they were not. The war crimes Radovan Karadzic is alleged to have committed are mild in comparison to the crimes of George Bush and Tony Blair. It's a thought, isn't it? Should Bush and Blair be facing war crimes? You tell me. 0161 228 2255. Alan, it must be quite simple for the French police to solve your burglary. Surely by now a person must have been found hanging from a tree, earphones in place, and Leonard Cohen playing on the iPod. Hey, Leonard Cohen, I'll have you know, is the star of the moment. Oh, yes. All those people who have sneered over the years. Sneer, I spit on your Leonard Cohen. He is just the misery. That's what they say. I went all French then, didn't I? Yeah. No. He's the star of the moment. There's a queue a mile long for tickets. Yeah. They were like gold dust. They were like rocking horse droppings tickets for Leonard Cohen in Manchester. He even appeared in Nice when I never went. He speaks French because he's Canadian. I never went to that. But, well, you've seen him once. You've done it, haven't you? You don't want to go and see the same thing all over again, do you? But anyway, there you are. So a little less sneery. War and peace, I grant you. For whom the bell tolls, I grant you. That was pretty tedious, except that bit where they were throwing the prisoners off the bridge. That was all right, but otherwise, it was a bit tedious. But I never heard it all, because the beggar pinched it before I got to the end. Jaime in Prestwich. Hi, Jaime.
Good afternoon, Alan. You do go on, don't you?
I do indeed go on. And
I'll tell you what it is, Alan.
Go on.
I keep reading in the paper and listening to people saying that the average water rate is about 300 and odd pounds. Right. So I looked at my water rate. I live in a small two-bedroom bungalow, and mine is 544, based on a rateable value of 250. That was the old rateable value of 250.
Yeah.
But when I look at the bill, there's two charges. There's one for the water you use, and there's one for wastewater.
Yeah.
In my instance, water is 230, wastewater is 314. Right, so when they quote an average water bill, are they just talking about the water? And do people who have a meter also have to pay extra for wastewater?
Blimey. First, well, I don't know whether they pay extra. I don't know quite how the billing system works when you have a meter, because in terms of wastewater, the amount of water that's taken away from your property will be equal to the amount of water that's delivered to it, won't it? So,
again, it's based on the old rateable value.
well, yes, but if you have a meter, it's no longer based on the rateable value.
No,
it's
that's
based on
true.
the supply, and the suppliers know if they sell you 1,000 litres of water, you're going to do all sorts of things with it, but at the end of it, they're going to have 1,000 litres of water to take away again, whether it's after washing or whether it's been through you or whatever. So they know it's going to go away again, so they've got that. The reason the bills are separated is because some people, about 25, 30 years ago, got really cross that they weren't on the sewage system but were being charged for wastewater. So they said, hang on a minute, we deal with it ourselves. We've got a cesspit or whatever. We deal with it ourselves. Why are we paying you? So they divided it. And that's how it got divided. I suspect it will still be divided if you're on a water meter. Because, again, if your water's supplied by water meter but is not taken away by the sewage system, you'd be paying for a service you're not using. So that's that. So I suspect they will be charged in the same way, in that the two elements of the charge will still be present. However, what is meant by the average bill when they refer to it, I've no idea. I have no idea at all.
I would love to know.
Yeah, I've always presumed it was the total bill for the property.
So did I, until I thought to myself, why should I be paying £544.25p, council taxes B for Bertie, old rateable value is £250, and then when I looked at it, there's two charges, one for water, like I say, and one for wastewater, and the one for water is less than £300. So I presume that they're quoting that when they say they have...
I don't think they are. I don't think they are. Frankly, I don't even know who it is that does the quoting. It's generally government departments and the like saying, oh, the average water price is this. Frankly, I think they're quoting the total bill. But, of course, there are people who are paying a lot more than others, which, and you seem to be one of those that's paying quite high. Is there no possibility for your property to have a meter?
Oh, yes, we've explored that possibility, and I'm undecided what to do, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, you can. I mean, I'm not in the business of selling the idea of a water meter, but you can choose to go on a water meter, and you can try it for the 12 months.
Yeah.
And if after 12 months you're not keen, you don't want to carry on, the water authority round here will allow you to revert back to the old system. They won't come and take the meter out again.
No.
But they will let you revert to the old system.
I understand that, but I'm always worried about if you've got a leak that you don't know about.
Yeah.
You know, when you get a water meter, that leak will become apparent, and you would have to pay for that leak and get it repaired, etc., etc.
Yeah, but yeah, you would. There's no escaping that. You would have to pay for water that was lost via a leak.
Yeah.
All right, mate.
Okay, thank you.
If anyone knows the answer to Jaime's question, we'd love to hear it. All right, mate.
Thank you.
Jaime in Prestwich, simple question, wants to know when he hears the media and others quote the average water rate charges X. When he does that, fair enough. So he does that. What are they quoting? Are they quoting for the overall payment, or are they quoting for just the water? I have no idea, and I wonder at the importance of it, but I like the question. Anyway, I like all questions, you know me. Life is about questions. What was that? Questions? Can't remember now. Doesn't matter. 20 to 1, BBC Radio Manchester News headlines. Anna Dawson.
Detectives investigating the theft of 3,000 blank passports in Oldham have made an arrest. Officers say it's understood to be the delivery man who was with the driver of the van that was targeted. A man from Salford says he's willing to risk his own life so his wife can get the cancer treatment she needs. Jean Murphy from Salford needs the kidney cancer drug Sutent, but her local healthcare trust doesn't provide it. Her husband says he's willing to stop taking his own medication for diabetes in protest. And good news if you travel between Manchester and London by train. Virgin's announced it's adding 4 extra carriages to its Pendolino trains. Manchester's weather dry but turning showery later, highs of 23 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Good news, as there's still no accidents or incidents to let you know about at the moment. In Altrincham, however, we do have Ashley New Road closed off southbound for roadworks between Cross Street and Ashley Road. The road will remain open northbound as you head into town, but southbound out of town is closed off at the moment. Also in Wigan, we've got a lane closed for gas mains work and restrictions on Warrington Road southbound at the junction with Pilstock Lane. That's at the Maris Bridge roundabout. Anything else that you spot? If you do spot any accidents or incidents, please do call us 0161 244 4951. I'm Helen Wakefield.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Will Perry.
Good afternoon. Well, England are back out after rain stopped play briefly on day 2 of the third test with South Africa at Edgbaston. The tourists are currently 88 for 1 in their first innings. Captain Graham Smith went for 7 before close yesterday. Lancashire's Andrew Flintoff the man to get him. So South Africa trailed by 144 runs. That's after England, of course, were bowled out for just 231. We'll keep you updated throughout the afternoon. Well, Ricky Hatton's former trainer Billy Graham says he was sacked by the hitman, despite rumours that he'd retired. Hatton and Graham had been working together for 11 years, and it was reported that Graham stepped down due to ongoing problems with his hands. Well, delighted to say that Billy joins me now. Billy, 11 years is a hell of a long time. How do you feel the way it's all ended up? Are you there, Billy? We'll hopefully speak to Billy in a little later on. He seems to have just dropped off the line there. Well, I know that Ricky will have a close eye on proceedings at Barnsley's Oakwell Stadium this evening. Manchester City will be hoping there's no banana skins in store for them as they take a 2-0 lead into the second leg of their UEFA Cup tie with EB Straymore of the Faroe Islands. Vedran Chorluka and Ilano are both expected to return. Brazilian striker Joe is on Olympic duty and Benjani is injured, but manager Mark Hughes insists he'll pick his strongest side despite leading the tie.
I'll pick a team that I think will win the game. I think first and foremost that's what we want to do. We want to get through to the next round. We want to put this tie to bed. We've been pleased, as I've already mentioned, that we've had competitive games in the pre-season period, because I think that will in the end help us when we start Premier League games. But first and foremost we want to win the game and win the tie.
Well, we'll have full match commentary here on BBC Radio Manchester and an interview with Mark Hughes right after the Rugby League hour, which starts at 7. The game kicks off at 8 p.m. If you've still not got a ticket, you can pay on the gate tonight at Oakwell. It's £15 for adults or £5 for concessions. Gareth Barry's proposed move to Liverpool could yet go ahead despite Aston Villa stating he will be staying with them. Liverpool failed to meet Villa's deadline to agree a deal, but Villa manager Martin O'Neill and chairman Randy Lerner are due to meet Barry and his agent for talks later this week. Tottenham have reportedly held talks with Spartak Moscow striker Roman Pavlyuchenko. The Russian met representatives from the North London club last week, although no deal has yet been agreed. Someone who has become a Spurs player is the former Arsenal midfielder David Bentley. He's joined from Blackburn for an initial £15 million. And finally, in Rugby League, Warrington forward Vinnie Anderson could miss the rest of the season with a shoulder injury he picked up in the game against Huddersfield. Anderson is now awaiting the results of a scan to see whether or not he can play again this year. So we apologise for not speaking to Billy Graham. We'll hopefully speak to him within the next hour.
He really has retired, hasn't he?
Your Sunday Morning Lion with Mike Shaft.
250 other bishops weren't there. A huge chunk of that 75 million will disappear. What's going to happen?
We're talking about the Anglican Communion. A large part of the growth of the Anglican Communion is in what is known as the Global South.
Mike Shaft.
Do you use religion, faith, Or are you a Christian who happens to be a comedian?
I'll talk about my faith if I think it's appropriate. So I do talk about my faith, but I'll try not to make it in a kind of preachy way. It's kind of incidental.
Manchester's faith, spirit, and life's difficult questions with Mike Shaft.
No group or individual has been barred.
Sunday morning from 7 on BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. How are you? Excellent. 0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk. Text 07786 206 951. And you can talk about anything, as we've amply demonstrated in the last 3/4 of an hour. Ron in Little Hulton. Hiya, Ron.
Oh, well, the guy that was on about the water meters.
Yes.
He definitely wants to get a meter.
Does he?
I mean, well, my bill went down by half. I mean, when the wife died, I'm on my own. I thought I'm not using a lot of water. I might as well get a meter. And I was paying $340 before, and it's gone down to less than $150. That's a year.
Yeah, but presumably the waste remains the same.
Well, no. The first bill was 6 monthly, which was £50 odd, and the next one was £100, near enough £100. And when I phoned up to ask why it was £100, why it was twice the first one, they said, well, they only bill for the wastage once a year. So the extra like £50 or so, I think it's £40 odd, something like that, was the wastage water, you know. But if he's paying $500, I mean, I've told half a dozen of my mates, and they all come up with their bills, and there's half a dozen of them had meters fitted, and they're all laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, there you are. That's advice for Jaime then.
Yeah,
you should get a meter.
And the other thing was, I read years ago, 1970s I think it was, and it was saying that by the year 2000, every town in England, every large town, would have a ginormous tank underneath it, or out in the country, where sewage was stored to make gas to run the electricity and the gas for the town.
Presumably that was the same people who told us that if we allowed nuclear power, the electricity would be so cheap they'd be giving it away.
Yeah, well, they said that about North Sea gas.
Well, then, exactly. We hear these tales all the time.
No, but I mean, it's feasible, that, isn't it? To feed sewage into tanks and to get the methane gas off. There's some borough down south somewhere that's doing it with food, aren't they?
Indeed there is. Whether it's worth the capital expenditure will depend upon a variety of things.
Surely, I mean...
Well, surely you say...
You'd have never had sewers put in if you'd have talked about capital expenditure, would you?
Well, no, you wouldn't.
Hey.
No, you wouldn't. But in the end, if the cost... Let us just go with Manchester. Let us say Manchester, or Greater Manchester, decided to have one of these underground tanks because we could reclaim the energy, if you like, the methane from sewerage. Well, if it cost 20 quid, be worth doing. 200 quid, worth doing. 2 million quid, worth doing. 2 billion, possibly. What if it was 250 billion pounds to do it? Then it's not worth it. So you have to know what the capital cost's going to be.
Yeah, well, as I've just said, I mean, they never put sewers in if you're going to go on about cost, would you?
Well, yes, you would, because there were massive benefits from doing that.
Massive benefits from what I've just said.
Yeah, well, in that case, let's do it, Ron. Let's do everything.
Yeah, let's get it on
straight
the card.
away. We'll come round to Little Hulton. We're having you and your neighbours' houses knocked down, and we're going bigger Vigol so we can fill it with crap.
Well, you always
It's got to go somewhere.
You
Where are you going to put? It's got to go somewhere.
It can go out in the country at the side of the town, can't it?
Oh, can't it?
Yeah, you always go over the top, don't you?
Or under the ground. It's got to go somewhere, Ron.
You always go over the top, Alan. It's silly, really.
Well, it's not silly.
It's silly the way you're talking. Yeah, you always go over the top.
I'm silly, but you want a dirty, great big hole burrowed under Manchester to put crap in. And I'm silly. Good on you, Ron. Mel in Kersley. Hiya.
Hi, Alan.
What have you got?
We spoke before. This water meter...
Oh, yes.
Yeah, well, we've got a water meter. We've had it for a few years. Basically, that is your one-off charge.
Mm.
I have a direct debit for 40, I think it's £45, something like that, a month, which is about £550 a year, and that pays for your water and your sewage. Now, prior to that, when we was in a house without a water meter, it was virtually double.
Really?
Because you were paying for the water as well as the sewage as well.
Yeah.
So I just get one direct debit a month, and it's about £550 a year.
Yeah, but on the old system, you would have only had one direct debit a month. You've only made one payment.
Yeah, but you'd still be paying more. What you're doing with your water meter, you're paying for your sewage as well as your water.
Yeah, but they must be billed separately, because that's...
No, it's just a one-off thing every month.
Yeah, I know. When I say
that is the only thing I get.
When I say billed separately, they will still have to break down the charges because they're no longer allowed. It was stopped. I think it was Margaret Thatcher's government that stopped it. They're no longer allowed to make a single charge for water, because if they do, as I say, some people will be paying for services that they're not getting.
Yeah, well, right. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll keep it in mind.
Yeah.
When I get me next one, it might be next April now, and I will look at it.
Yeah, because you get your bill. They have to be paid. It's 1st of October is the payment date or something, isn't it? If you're doing it 6 monthly. Yeah.
Well, whatever it is. But when I get it, I'll look at it.
All right.
I'll come back to you.
Well, I shall look forward to that.
All right, Alan, thank you.
Good on you, Mel. And just for the record, Marion in Salford has sent me the breakdown of her water bill. That's what we call it, water bill. A water bill was £102.40 for 6 months. It's the 6 months just gone, I think. And this is how it broke down. The water standing charge, which presumably is for the pipes and all that gubbins, was £12.98. That'd be 26 quid a year, more or less. £12.98. The water volume charge for 6 months was £29.23. The sewerage standing charge was £6.73. The sewerage volume, you really don't want to think about that, do you? The sewerage volume charge was £23.16. And then the surface water highway drainage charge, which we all have to pay, was £30.30. And Marion says, I've always found it strange that I pay more for surface and highway charges than I pay for what I use. Yeah, that's fair enough. It is strange, isn't it? I wonder how they work that out. Anyway, thank you for that. So we got the breakdown of a water bill. I've been fascinated, says Dave in Bury. I think this may be sarcasm. Yeah. I have been fascinated listening to your technical remarks regarding wireless technology. I was particularly interested to hear about the wire that plugs into the computer and the hub to allow the two devices to talk to each other. Do you think I could get one of those special cables to plug into the wife for when things are a bit frosty? I thought you already had a little cable that plugged into the wife. Pardon? 161 228 2255. Stop it. Does the computer have the capability to receive wireless? Asks Adam in Burnage. I don't know. Irene might. Okay, we got that. And then, who are high wage agency traffic officers and what do they do? I'm just asking because I saw one of them trying to catch a dog on the M62 in Rochdale, says Peter. Well, they're people who are employed to catch dogs on the M62, obviously. And, hi, Alan, do you know the website that you can go on to check what rates other properties are paying in my particular area? No. But I am informed by someone who claims to know. I'm not taking the blame for this. Up my street. Now, stop it. Upmystreet.com. No, not Up Your Street. That's an entirely different website and you don't want to look at it. Upmystreet.com. All lowercase. So there. I've no idea, but that's what I'm told. Hi, Alan. I'm thinking of having my gas to come through my water meter. Will it be cheaper? You'll have bubbles in your bath. You don't. Yes, I know you do already. I know how you do it, and I'll stop it. Ken in Wigan. Hiya, Ken.
Hello, Alan.
What have you got?
Well, again, water meter. Well, you've just had
All right.
the breakdown read out to you, but I've got my water bill in front of me. I'm basically like the gentleman who phoned in. I live in a 3-bedroom bungalow on my own, and I've got a water meter.
Right.
So, you want me to read it out again, do you?
Well, you might as well, yeah, go on.
Okay, well, I'll start with the total amount.
How long's it for, this? Is it 6 months or a year?
No, the total amount due is £123.88 for the year.
For the year, right.
Because I'm tight, you see.
No wrong with being tight.
Standing charge water, £12.54. Water volume charge, which the water use, is £6.09. The subtotal of £18.63. The sewage standing charge is £6.50. The sewage volume charge is £4.83. The surface water highway drainage is £29.26. That's a subtotal of £40.59. And then total new charges, I don't know how that is, but at the bottom, it's, as I say, it comes to £123.88.
For the year?
Yep. Sorry, I'm tight.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about...
myself, because I don't keep them, but I pay by direct debit, and I've got 12 direct debits on the bill, and the first one's £5 odd, and the rest for £10.74, so it must be for the year, mustn't it?
Well, yes, yeah, well done, you.
Yeah. Also, he was on about worrying about losing water.
If there was a leak,
Most home contents insurance cover that.
Well, they cover the damage. Do they cover the...
No, as far as I've read, I can't look at it, but going from memory, it usually says water meter leakage and oil leakage, so I'm pretty sure it does cover that.
Oh, well, pretty sure wouldn't do it for me,
no,
but all right.
I don't think. Well, as I say, I wasn't. No one was going to speak to you.
That's fine.
I could have looked it up, but I've always read it that way. What water loss through meter or something like that, it usually says on it.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, we'll tell Jaime, because I bet he's got insurance. Good on you.
All right, on.
Thank you for that.
See ya.
We're getting to the bottom of all this water stuff. Yeah. I live in, says Anne in Congleton, I live in a 4-bedroom detached with my daughter and 3 dogs. Oh, for crying out loud. My daughter and 3 dogs. I don't worry about using water, and I am on a meter. My charges are £20 a month, which in the end comes out, does it not, to £240 a year. She's paying less than me. Yeah, she is. She's paying less than us. Mind you, she's got to live in Congleton, so, I mean, it swings and roundabouts, isn't it, really? And she's got 3 dogs. Ugh, what a thought. No. I mean, somebody having 1, fine, I suppose. 3? Good Lord. What do you want 3 dogs for? It didn't make sense to me. Why would you have 3 dogs? I saw a bloke walking 6 dogs the other day. I couldn't believe it. His pocket must have been stuffed full of carrier bags. 6 dogs he was walking. Now, presumably, he may well be a dog walker. Apparently, that's a living these days. Yeah, people who've got dogs, but they're too idle-arsed to take their own thing out for a walk. They just want something to, I don't know, eat the neighbour's children or something. I don't know. Sounds like an eminently sensible thought. 0161 228 2255. You got something to say. John sends an email relating to the story of yesterday, the girl with her bangle, remember? I watched the news on, well, he says last night, but I got this late on yesterday, so it was the night before, and was mightily impressed by the large legal team emerging to stage a press conference for her benefit. I dare say that all those concerned with enforcing her rights will now be pleased to donate their fees to alleviate pensioner fuel poverty or some similar good cause. Someone somewhere needs to trim the wings of the legal profession's gravy train, which has grown to the point where we have more studying law than engineering. And on another front, who in their right mind would be involved in education in this day and age? It is a minefield of political correctness. Everyone seems to have a say, except the teaching staff concerned. So well done, says John in Lim. Another step forward in our brave new world. What an interesting thought, that lawyers doing their job should give their fees to charity. Why? It's their wages.
City at home in the UEFA Cup in Barnsley. Yes, it's true. Commentary on the game tonight from 7.
Well, it is a strange world, it ever there was. 0161 228 2255, Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk, and text on 07786 206 951.
95.1 FM.
DAB digital radio.
And the World Wide Web.
This is Manchester.
BBC Radio Manchester.
At 1 o'clock, police investigating the theft of thousands of passports in Greater Manchester make an arrest, and the McCanns get to examine Portuguese police files on their daughter's disappearance.
England finally make a breakthrough after the rain delays.
Well, this afternoon we're going to get some heavy rain or showers developing, and we could hear a rumble of thunder. Top temperatures 25 Celsius.
Looking good on the roads at the moment, no accidents or incidents, but in Manchester, Key Street remains closed for water mains work between Deansgate and Byram Street.
Good afternoon, I'm Anna Dawson. A man's been arrested by detectives investigating the theft of 3,000 blank passports in Oldham earlier this week. We understand it's the 48-year-old delivery man who was in the van that was hijacked when the driver stopped to buy a newspaper in Chadderton on Monday. DCI Bill McGreevy from Greater Manchester Police says they're still working to find the stolen documents, which have a street value of more than £2 million.
What I can say is that the police are in close liaison with the Passports Office. I've spoken myself personally with the Passports Office, and the Passports Office are offering great assistance at this moment in time regarding the serial numbers and things like that.
A man from Salford says he's willing to risk his own life so his wife can get the cancer treatment she needs. Jean Murphy from Salford needs the kidney cancer drug Shutant, but her local healthcare trust doesn't provide it, although it is available in Cheshire and Merseyside. Her husband Michael, who takes medication for heart disease, diabetes and a chronic bowel condition, says he'll stop taking his medication if his wife's plea for treatment is rejected for a third time today. Lawyers for Madeleine McCann's family have begun examining Portuguese police files on the case. Portuguese detectives formally stopped treating the McCanns as official suspects in the case last week and declared it closed. A day after announcing big increases in domestic fuel bills, Centrica, which owns British Gas, has announced profits of nearly £1 billion for the first half of the year. Yesterday, the company put up its domestic gas prices by 35% and electricity by 9%. The Energy Minister, Malcolm Wick, says the government's pledge to eradicate fuel poverty by 2016 could be hard to fulfil.
It is looking difficult, but look, what can we do to try to help the most vulnerable? Well, Alistair Darling, the Chancellor, has already acted in the last budget. He's announced that the winter fuel payments for elderly people, those over 60, will be increased. That's something. It will bring some significant comfort to people when they get those fuel payments just before Christmas.
A man's been given 2 life sentences and told he'll serve at least 24 years in prison for murdering 2 patients at a nursing home in Leicester. Nathan Mann, who's 20, beat to death 56-year-old Rashmi Bediandi and smothered Rathaben Chan, who was 72, at the Hayes Park nursing home last year. If you're trying to sell your house, you might want to check its valuation. Figures from the Nationwide show house prices have fallen at their fastest rate since 1991. They dropped by 1.7% last month, meaning the average home's now worth £15,000 less than this time last year. We asked Nationwide's chief economist, Fionnuala Early, if the signs pointed towards a recession.
Well, I think it's still hard to know. We're now seeing oil prices beginning to slide, and that's been one of the big factors that's caused things to slow down. It's squeezed incomes significantly. But I think even if we do cross that threshold and go into recession, then I think it'll be a much milder position than we were in the early 1990s.
Good news if you travel between Manchester and London by train. Virgin's announced it's making 4 new longer Pendolino trains with 11 carriages. It's also putting an extra 2 carriages on 31 other trains, in all creating over 7,000 new seats.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Joanne Smith.
Well, England have finally made a breakthrough on day 3 of the third test with South Africa at Edgbaston. Ryan Sidebottom taking the wicket of Paul Harris for 19. The Tories are now 104 for 2, that's at lunch in their first innings, and trail by 127 runs. Ricky Hatton's former trainer Billy Graham says he was sacked by the hitman. That's despite rumours that he'd retired. Hatton and Graham had been working together for 11 years. It was reported that Graham stepped down due to ongoing problems with his hands. That's not proved to be the case, and he says it's a huge blow. I was sacked, but if Ricky wants to finish with me, that's entirely up to him. Well, you can hear what Billy's got to say right here in our sports bulletin at 1:40. We'll bring you that. Veteran Chaluka and Ilano are both expected to return for Manchester City as they take on EB Straymore of the Faroe Islands tonight in the UEFA Cup at Oakwell. We'll have full match commentary of the second leg from 8 o'clock here on BBC Radio Manchester. And in Rugby League, Warrington forward Vinnie Anderson could miss the rest of the season with a shoulder injury he picked up in the game against Huddersfield. Anderson is now awaiting the results of a scan to see whether he'll play again this year.
BBC Radio Manchester satellite weather with Heather Stott.
As we go through this afternoon, the showers that are around are going to turn into a more general band of rain crossing the region. Now, some of those showers and that rain could be heavy and it could be thundery at times. It feels close, humid and muggy, with top temperatures getting to 25 Celsius.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
At first I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but I quickly made my mind up and laughed myself silly. Peter Purvis, remember him? Well, he's best known now for having a bit of rumpy-pumpy with Valerie Singleton, but prior to that he was just known for being on Blue Peter. Anyway, he's been rushed to hospital because he's been bitten by a dog. It's at a show. Well, he does that Crufts, doesn't he? And apparently a little Yorkie Terrier took one look at him and thought, he looks tasty. And had a bit of a nibble. Not, if I may say, not unlike the reaction of our own dear Valerie. Anyway, does anyone know, this is Vinny wants to know, does anyone know where I can download a cooker manual for a Techno-Cook fan-assisted oven? Why would anyone know that? Have you tried the internet? Have you tried typing in that? Yeah. Never mind. Simon says, I'm currently unemployed. I get £60.50 a week to live on. Of that, £23.05 goes to pay me gas and electricity bills, with another £6.85 a week for water, around £15 a week for £15 a week for food, and the remainder going on other household bills. Now it looks like as though my gas and electricity bills are set to rise by over 25%. My food bills have risen by a similar amount and show no sign of falling, and I can expect water rate hikes above inflation in April. Do you suppose the government will increase benefits for me and others in my situation? Whilst pensioners get an extra £200 a year to help pay their bills, the unemployed get nothing extra. Instead, we have a choice between feeding the greed of the multinational fuel companies or feeding ourselves. I'm already doing everything I can to trim costs. I use energy-saving bulbs. I've cancelled my broadband service in favour of using the local public library. I've cut out luxuries such as breakfast. Without making glib comments such as get a job, I've been trying unsuccessfully for 9 months, can you or your listeners suggest any way of making ends meet to ensure that the fat cats in the energy companies get their bonuses and the Chancellor gets his increased tax revenues? Have a great day, Alan. That's Simon in Haywood. All those people who talk about the idle on the dole, the idle, why don't they get a job? It's not easy. It's not easy to get a job. And frankly, the longer you're unemployed, the harder it is to get a job. Now, OK, after a certain time, there are all sorts of assistances in finding work kick in. But frankly, it's still hard. I know there's work out there to be done, but it's still hard. I've never really been unemployed. I'm not likely to be unemployed now because I'm of an age where when this bubble bursts, and it's gonna, when this bubble bursts, I suppose that'll be it. That'll be me on the scrap heap. You know, 60 years of age in October. Exactly. You know, the scrap heap looms. It comes towards me at a pace.
You don't have to love rugby league to love Jack Dearden and Trevor Hunt.
We only wish they were here.
I know it.
Sounds like a travel programme.
What was she called on the travel programme? Judith Chalmers, who didn't wear any underwear when she was on vacation.
Jack, no!
Speaking of things like that, and did you read about Valerie Singleton? Now we know.
I don't want to know anymore.
Now we know why they called it Blue Peter.
Jack Dearden, Trevor Hunt.
Jack, seriously, do you think Hornets would have gotten away with the same ruling that Hull had?
I mean, I'll say it for Jack. The answer's quite simple.
Hang on, I can speak for myself, thanks.
And all too often.
The Rugby League Hour with Jack Dearden and Trevor Hunt.
That's the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
This evening from 7.
At BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. There's been another one of them apologies. Yeah. There has. Another apology, this time by the Americans. I've not got the full details of it, but America yesterday apologised to millions of its black citizens and their ancestors who suffered under slavery and segregation laws. Senators passed a resolution which commits the nation to correcting the lingering consequences of the misdeeds committed against African Americans. But it does not allow for compensation. In other words, we're very, very sorry, but that's getting out, in a word. Now, it's up to America who it apologises to and who it doesn't. It's their privilege, and frankly, I don't give a damn. But I don't want to apologise for slavery, unless, of course, the black people of South Africa who sold their fellow black people to the nasty white man are prepared to apologise as well. I don't remember the last time that an African group said, we're very, very sorry that we sold our black African brothers for a few beads into slavery. So you've got to start examining. I'm not for one moment suggesting that the British and the Americans do not have a case to answer. They do. They've done some pretty wicked things. But it's futile and patronising to apologise for something that you didn't do. And frankly, the United Kingdom, as it stands at the moment, had nothing to do with slavery. Nothing. Nothing at all. The United States had nothing to do with slavery. In fact, when slavery was rife, the United States didn't even exist. So the idea of apologising for something that happened centuries ago is utter pap. It is utter pap. It's, if you'll pardon the ghastly racist expression, it's giving the darkies a pat on the head. That's what it is. It's patronising in the extreme. It is so patronising that it is actually racist. It's racist. Here you are, living in our country. That's what they're saying. This nation apologises to you. Now, frankly, I've never apologised to myself. Alan, I'm awfully sorry that you've got red hair. Alan, I'm awfully sorry that you've got a big mouth. Alan, I'm awfully sorry that you're overweight. Alan, I'm awfully sorry that you ate too much toast. Alan, I'm awfully... I have never apologised to me. Why? Well, there's not really a lot of point, is there, if you think about it. So if a nation apologises to its citizens, and black people constitute a fairly substantial proportion of the United States of America, it is actually apologising to itself. I know. It's utterly ludicrous. Utterly ludicrous. But there you are. At least it means that whoever's doing the apologising might get a few votes. Neil in Bebington says, I know this. If there was a case against myself and it was then closed, I wouldn't get to see the case files. You wouldn't. Unless, of course, it was the Portuguese police. Yeah. Steph in Old Trafford. Alan, don't worry about ending up on the scrap heap. There's a well-known DIY store that takes old farts on. Yeah, the last thing you want when you're looking for a screw is to find me in a pinny. Stop it. James, or a nut and bolt, as it happens. James says, "Hi, Alan. The best thing I've bought, which has cut my electric bill, is a slow cooker." Oh, very good. Yes, very, very good. Yeah, I know, the thought of me in a penny, it's a bit worrying. It's not doing me any favours either. Jean says, "After researching several price comparison sites to try and save money on my current gas and electricity bills, I was advised that British Gas Click Energy," I don't know what the click means, "British Gas Click Energy 5 would save me in the region of £170 per year. 3 days ago, I went online and switched over to them. Given the current news of a 35% rise in charges, what would you do now? Cancel it?" Well, Jean, I don't know. If you still have the ability, the right to cancel it, I'd seriously consider it. However, it may be that the company you were previously with is about to put their charges up as well. So I don't know the answer to your question. It's very much about predicting the future. But if you're still in that cooling down period, which is a bit funny when you're buying your eating, if you're still in that cooling down period, then why not cancel it? Just say, "No, I'm not converting to you. You just put your price up 35%. I'm having now to do with it." Now, I don't know when the 35% comes in, and equally, I've no knowledge of whether others are going to put their prices up as well. David said, "You mentioned, as did one or two contributors regarding Irene's problem, the wireless aerial." I know. Is that like the cat's whisker? Well, it is, unless, of course, it works properly. And then it's an entirely different part of the anatomy of a dog. No, I'm not saying it. No, I don't care what you encourage. I'm not saying it. And Bob says, "Heading for 60. Oh, he did say. I've just deleted him. Oh, got him back. Yeah. Sadly, some southern upstart is probably being primed as you speak. We don't have southern upstarts on here. Who've we got on here? Who are you having a go at? Who've we got? We got Eamon O'Neill. He's from round here. We got Diane. She's from the northeast. Hardly southern. Heather. She's sort of from round here. Well, sort of, you know, out in the posh bits. Yeah. No, I didn't call her that. I said out in the posh bits. God's sake. Macclesfield, that's posh. You got me, I'm from round here, Warrington. You've got her, Becky Walt, she's with you in a bit. 3/4 of an hour. She's been round here since God was a lad. She's one of ours, born and bred round here, was wanted. So, on it goes. No, we don't have any southern upstarts. We've got one or two burbling through the news and maybe the odd one doing the sport, but there's a toss about them. Exactly. You know, I'm sorry, but I must come to the defence. It's over there. So, should you lose your job at the BBC, Tim in Worsley said, "Should you lose your job at the BBC, I suggest you become a computer repair consultant." That's very, very cruel. Unless you were meant it, in which case it's very, very stupid. Dearie me. 0161 228 2255. If you've got something to say, that's fantastic. There's a lovely racist story in there. I don't normally use that adjective over racism, but this is pretty good. Albeit because it's about the Germans. A great story in the newspaper. Britain's fury, this is in the Mail. Britain's fury as Germans put the towels down on a whole hotel. Yeah. When Mike and Amanda Barber realised their holiday hotel was dominated by Germans, they no doubt expected some competition for the sunbeds. Little did they realise how much more they'd have to contend with. Not only the sunbeds, but also the play area, the swings, and even the toilets were out of bounds for non-Germans. The Barbers claimed yesterday the £2,500 sunshine holiday with their children was ruined because the hotel was geared up to catering for the continental holidaymakers. The couple accused the owners of discrimination. Only Germans can play on the swings. Yeah, they're from Eastbourne, these. Very nearly friends. All British families were locked out of the main children's club at Greek Holiday Island. It's an island on Crete. It's a resort on Crete. German youngsters enjoyed a sheltered playground, air-conditioned indoor area, and they had their own toilets in a gated compound. You see, if I went on holiday, I'd want the Germans kept in a compound, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you all want them rounded up and kept away? Well, you can't live on sausage and sauerkraut, dear God. Anyway, Mr. Barber, who's a decorator, not a barber at all, said the kids couldn't even use the same toilet as the Germans. They had to walk a few hundred miles from their shed. I was stunned when our 7-year-old daughter came back in tears, saying she's been told she's not allowed to use the swings because they were only for the Germans. We are ways of making you happy, but only if it's one of us. Drink, 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 drink. I'm just going into the German drinking song, in case you were wondering. Yeah, I wasn't surprised to find you had to be at the pool by 7 to bag a sun lounger. But this was something else. They were treated like second-class citizens. Hey, 60 years. Not as long as you think sometimes. 0161 228 2255. All right. Just after 1:20, BBC GMR News headlines with Anna Dawson.
A man's been arrested by detectives investigating the theft of over 3,000 blank passports in Oldham. We understand it's the 48-year-old delivery man who was in the van that was hijacked when the driver stopped to buy a newspaper in Chatterton on Monday. A day after announcing big increases in domestic fuel bills, Centrica, which owns British Gas, has announced profits of nearly £1 billion for the first half of the year. And good news if you travel between Manchester and London by train. Virgin's creating over 7,000 new seats by making longer trains. Manchester's weather, heavy showers this afternoon, some thundery, highs of 23 Celsius.
Is that a bit like the queues for getting on them? They're longer as well, aren't they? Dear.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Still looking pretty good with no accidents or incidents to tell you about. In the city centre, though, Key Street is still closed off because of water mains work between Deansgate and Byram Street. Also, if you're in the Royton area, we do have Shaw Road closed off because of resurfacing work. That's both ways between Oldham Road and Edge Lane Street until the end of next month. And also in Altrincham, Ashley New Road is closed off southbound for roadworks. That's between Cross Street and Ashley Road. Anything else that you spot, please do call us 0161 244 4951. I'm Helen Wakefield.
Edge Lane Street.
Radio Manchester.
With 2020 traffic through until midnight.
Through until midnight.
BBC Radio Manchester.
That's a weird name, isn't it? Edge Lane Street. What's that one? Oh, there's loads of these. Watling Street Road Avenue. There's one of them, I think it's in Preston. Well, Watling Street was... Yeah. Watling Street was a Roman thing. Yeah, it was a dirty, great big road. Went all the way up the country, called Watling Street. And then they had Watling Street Road, and there was an avenue coming up, it was called Watling Street Road Avenue. It was like that. Yeah. Shame it wasn't a cul-de-sac, really. Here's a question for you. I've pinched it, the story. Well, pinched, it's there for all to see, from the big issue this week. But I'm looking for the page. The question is torture ever acceptable? This is the story of a lad called Les Walker, and he was taken into custody by the Saudi authorities. Now, we know what a bunch of nasties they are. They're vile, they're despicable. And if they weren't so bloody rich, our country would have nothing to do with them. But they are rich, so frankly, we'll help them do whatever they want, even if it's to boil somebody in oil. And they've plenty of that. We'd let them, we don't care, because our principles only go so far as our wallet will let them. That's the way the world's always been. But he was taken into custody, he was blindfolded, shackled and dragged into a room. And then they tortured him. Well, OK. I don't really know. I've not read the article in detail, but they were presumably trying to get him to own up for having a glass of bitter or something really, really wicked like that, or perhaps letting a woman drive his car. That's a hanging offence. You know, that involves a lot of stones and all sorts. Well, you know what the Saudis are like? They're a nasty bit of work. The Saudi government is vile. It really is vile and despicable. And I would never go near their country, frankly. I just wouldn't, because the likes of me, I'd get years. Anyway, that was that. What he was accused of being involved in bombings, yeah, that had rocked the Saudi city, or a Saudi city, and he was deprived of medication for a long-term heart condition, and he was so distraught at the end of it that he confessed to the crime, live. I don't know who's live, but he confessed to the crime on Saudi television. He never did it. Well, he says he didn't, and, you know, it's easy to believe him. He said he didn't do it. He said he wasn't a terrorist. He hadn't blown bits of Saudi up. He just eventually said, yes, I did it, just to stop the torture. So, simple question. Is torture ever acceptable? There's an inquiry going on at the moment about whether some of the behaviour of some British forces in recent years constitutes torture. We've also got the situation where the Americans, who we know use torture, we know that, there's no doubt about it, we know they use torture. They might not, although I suspect they do, they might not use it, perform it themselves, but they fly their prisoners to lands where torture is not outlawed and let it get done there. They probably fly a few to Saudi because they're good at it. But the question is torture ever acceptable? It sounds like one of those things that us sort of social type lefties can answer dead easy, saying, no, of course it's not. It's never, ever acceptable. Amnesty International would say torture is never, ever acceptable. So let's think of daft examples. Fella drops a fag packet out of his car window and denies doing it. Should we torture him to get the information about whether he did or whether he did not? Well, clearly not. Clearly not. It's a ludicrous thought. Why are you having it? It's a ludicrous thought. You wouldn't dream of using torture in that case. But donkeys years ago, 40, 50 years ago, if you were taken into custody for a serious crime, it was frequently the case that you fell downstairs when being transferred from the question room to your cell in the police station. You fell downstairs. In other words, the police beat you up. Oh, come on, let's not get namby-pamby here. We know what happened. The police beat you up, and eventually you said, all right, I did it. Now, whether you did it or not is a matter of insignificance. It happened. Well, OK. Should we have the police beating people up? No, we shouldn't, and we don't. We've got criminal evidence and all that bills now, and acts to get rid of that. So, no, we don't have that. But imagine the situation where the authorities got those 4 blokes who blew up the London Underground before they'd actually set out on that journey, or maybe they just got one of them, and they wanted that one to tell them where the other 3 were headed with their bombs. Would it be acceptable to torture him? To force him, in the short time available, to force him to tell you where the other 3 are, who they are, and where they're headed? Surely that is worth it, isn't it? Or is it? So, simple question. Is torture ever acceptable? Torture in your name. Torture by the British authorities on foreigners or British people who they believe have information of an urgent terrorist attack. An imminent terrorist attack, and urgent information is required. They can't do all that. Let's wait and see. Because if they wait and see, the place will be blown to bits. should they talk to the person they suspect having the information. 0161 228 2255. It's getting on for half one. Norman in Moston. Hiya, Norman.
Hi, Alan.
What have you got?
Well, Alan, I'm phoning up to see how these travellers are allowed to do what they do and not be moved on. You know, like they just park wherever they want on any land at all, and they're left there for 7 or 8 days. Like they went on Broadhurst Fields, the football pitches, and they were there for 8 days. And nothing's done to them. How did that get by?
Well, the question is answered easy. It's the law.
It's the law, but you know, if we were to drive on Broadhurst Field in our cars, they would take our cars' registration numbers and they would sue us for doing it. Yet they can do what they want. Is that a law for them and not for us?
No, it isn't a law for them and not for us. The law is the same for all of us. But if you want to occupy a piece of land,
yes,
then you go along and occupy it. And it's then a legal process has to be gone through to establish whether you're entitled to occupy it. And that legal process...
I appreciate that, yeah, I agree with that 100%. And that would be the same for anybody.
Yes.
But it's just the fact that they drive all over the football pitches and everything, and no one stops them. And I could not be able to do that. If I'd done that, they would take my car off me. It's a bit hard when they go, and when they go, they leave monuments everywhere.
But if you're occupying the land residentially,
yes,
then there are certain processes that have to be gone through to get rid of you. If you're merely driving across the land and then leaving again, you're actually committing an offence.
Correct.
But they're not driving across the land and leaving, they're occupying it residentially. Now, if you...
They're not allowed to, but...
Well, no. The statement they are not allowed to is a matter of debate, whether they are allowed to, and that debate is called the legal process. If you wanted to occupy a piece of land, in other words, to drive on there with your caravan and live there, then you would have exactly the same rights and exactly the same process would have to be gone through if the owner of the land wanted to get rid of you.
Wonderful.
Well, that's how it is. We have a legal system. It takes time to work.
To work on it. Well, I wish you'd use the same signal when I park my car wrong.
Well, when you park your car wrong, the laws about parking your car there are two things. One, they are very, very precise, and two, you have undergone a process known as a driving test that says, yes, I understand the laws. So you can't say, well, I didn't know. You can't say I didn't know because you have proven to the nation that you should know.
Well, quite rightly, just in Moston, they've been doing that big purge where they've been taking kids off motorbikes and squashing the motorbikes.
Yes.
They're all over. Yeah, when the gypsies go on that site and they've got 7 or 8 of the little lads all riding up and down on the motorbike, they don't do anything to them. Surely that must be a law that is...
That depends on whether you're riding your motorcycle in your garden or not.
So that's their garden, as it seems.
Well, it is at the time because they are occupying the land residentially.
But you know the fact that people use it for football and they drive across the football pitch while they're playing football, is that not something that they can pull them for?
Well, I've not yet heard of them driving across and occupying the football pitch during a game. But, again, if you want the law to agree with you... But the law...
I just want to know what the law states, that's all.
Well, I've told you, if you occupy a piece of land residentially, it is then up to the owner of that land, whoever it might be,
being the council in this case.
Well, it might be, it might not. The council might have it on leash. I bet you don't know.
Well, I do know, because Broadhurst Field, we play football out for years, and we've hired it off the council on numerous occasions.
And do you know whether the council have it in trust or whether they are the owners?
Well, we haven't gone as deep as that, I must
So when I said you don't know and you said I do know, what you meant was you're right, Alan, I don't know.
Well, what I said was, my knowledge is this, Alan.
No, you didn't. Well, that's what I'm saying. But Norman, the principle is that the first thing that's got to be established is who owns the land. So a load of people move onto some land and occupy it residentially. We've now got to find out who owns it. We've now then got to find out whether the person who owns it actually wants them off there. Right. Now, if the person wants them off there, that person or someone on his behalf has got to go through the legal process of getting them off there.
Wonderful. Yes, it seems that way, because that's all that seems to happen. A length of time passes and then they move.
Well,
and they leave all the monuments when they go, whatever rubbish and crap and everything, and then we bring the council in and they send loads of men and clean it all up. I was looking for a magic wand for you, Alan, but you haven't got one.
I don't have a magic wand.
No, I know. But normally you do. I listen to you every single day, and now and again you come up with fantastic advice how to do it, but unfortunately with these we can't.
Well, I don't make stuff up. I just have to go with what there is.
I know 100%. I know you don't, but you're very straight talking. And that's
Indeed, that is so. Good to talk to you, Norman. It's 25-2. Alan, I've heard that Prince William is to do a stint in the elite SAS regiment. My question is, will he be required to go through the very, very tough selection process, which hundreds, if not thousands, of soldiers have failed to complete in recent years? Or, as is suspect, is he just going to become an SAS trooper because certain people have decided it will be that way? And if so, how would he expect to get the respect of the soldiers in the regiment who did win their places through hard work and dedication to their jobs? Well, not everybody that works with the SAS has gone through selection, as it's called. There are many personnel working with the SAS who have not gone through selection. So he may well do a stint with the SAS. Whether he will do a stint in the SAS is a matter of, well, discourse. It's not cut and dried, but I didn't even know he was going around there, so there you are. I think you would look cute in an orange pinny. It'd match your hair, says Steph in Old Trafford. And Trevor in Rochdale, I pay rent to a private landlord. Could I have a water meter fitted without telling my landlord? And is there a fee for the change? Well, there is no fee for the installation of the meter, as I understand it. I don't think they charge you to install it. I think that is free of charge. I might be wrong, but I think that's the case. Whether you have to have the permission of your landlord, I don't know. I suppose it depends on the deal with him. So I don't know is the only answer I can give there. 0161228 2255. Roy in Warrington. Hiya, Roy.
Good morning. No, it's not. Good afternoon, Alan. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
You've just been talking about these guys that were detained in Saudi.
Yeah.
Les Walker. There was another one called Jimmy Cottle. Manchester chap.
Yeah.
And there was another chap from the Wirral who I can't remember his name is. But I knew the three of them. We socialised together, so on and so forth. But I've had first-hand experience of Saudi justice myself. Or the lack of it, I should say. I was driving to work one morning, driving at the same speed as everybody else, and I looked in my mirror and there's a police car behind me. Pulled me over. He did Surah, speed, he was saying. So I locked my car up, got in the police car and went straight to jail. No messing around, that's it, you're guilty. And I had to do 24 hours in jail plus a fine. If you can't pay the fine, you don't get out, no matter what. But there was no representation there at all, none. Total lack of it. And this loosely ties into what you were talking about about slavery. I agreed with you wholeheartedly. It's about time somebody had the thingies to say so out loud on the radio. Well done, Alan. The Saudis only outlawed slavery, would you believe, officially in 1962. And the stand where the slaves were stood is still there on the outskirts of Riyadh. Now, what do you think of that?
Well, the stand still being there, I rather applaud, a bit like in Liverpool, the place where the slaves were sort of displayed is also still there. So for historic matters, yes, I'm glad it's still there. The fact that the Saudis only outlawed it in 1962, again, I don't mind that, as long as they stopped it earlier, but I suspect they didn't. I suspect it still goes on in Saudi.
I agree with you. In fact, I've just read a book called White Gold, and it's all about... Have you read it?
I've read reviews of it, for want of a better.
It's very enlightening, believe me. You would like it. And that is about white slavery, which we never, ever hear mentioned, ever.
Well, I think never, ever is quite a long time. It's even been mentioned on this programme. But it's not as big a subject, I'll grant you. But slavery continues to this day.
It seems to be glossed over. Well, the Barbary Corsairs used to raid southern England on a regular basis. They also used to capture European merchant vessels in the Mediterranean. And believe me, the treatment that they got was far worse than the black slaves that were brought out of Africa. So I've said my piece now, so thanks very much.
All right, that's why we're here, to have people saying their pieces. 0161228 2255 if you've got something to say. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk is also available, and, of course, you can text on 07786 206 951. It's just gone 20 to 2, and Faye Rusko's got the headlines.
A delivery man's been arrested following the theft of passports and visas worth more than £2 million from a van in Oldham. Police are trying to find a man who's tricked his way into the homes of about 50 elderly people in Manchester. He's pretended to be from the Water Board before robbing them. And good news, if you travel between Manchester and London by train, Virgin's announced it's making 4 new longer Pendolino trains with 11 carriages. Manchester's weather, heavy showers this afternoon, some thundery, highs of 23 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Still looking pretty good out and about on the roads. No major accidents or incidents or major delays to let you know of. If you are heading northbound on the M6, just after junction 19 at Knutsford, there is a speed restriction of 50 there because of emergency repairs. Also in Warrington today, the roadworks and restrictions continue on the A49 Winnick Road at Owen Street. And in Wigan, we've got a lane closed because of gas mains work and restrictions on Warrington Road at southbound at the junction with Pillstock Lane at the Maris Bridge roundabout. Anything else that you spot, please do call in 0161 244 4951. I'm Helen Wakefield.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Joanne Smith.
Good afternoon. News on England's cricketers in a moment, but first, Ricky Hatton's former trainer Billy Graham has admitted that his sacking didn't come as a surprise. It was initially reported that Graham stepped down from his position due to ongoing problems with his hands. However, the decision was made by the hitman.
Well, I'm disappointed. I thought I was going to stick it out till the end. I always intended to retire when Ricky retired. I knew there was only a couple of fights, so I'd have liked to have stuck it out till the end, but it's been a fantastic ride. I feel really fortunate to have been what I think is the best fighter ever to come out of this country. I can read between the lines, but don't forget I've been working with these people for a long, long time. And I've been in boxing a long, long time, so I can see things before they come.
After a frustrating morning, England finally broke through the South Africa top order just before lunch on day 3 of the third test at Edgbaston.
Here's side bottom, left arm over, in, bowls, and he's out, he's gone, caught at third slip, and that was Cook. He was just nibbled with that one, and he went straight to third slip, and the night watchman has at last gone.
Well, that was Ryan Sidebottom taking the wicket there of Paul Harris for 19. They're now just back out after lunch. The Tourists still in command with opener Neil Mackenzie 52 not out. South Africa 104 for 2 in reply to England's first innings total of 231. Manchester City will be hoping there's no banana skins in store for them this evening. The Blues take a 2-0 lead into the second leg of the UEFA Cup tie with EB Strymore of the Faroe Islands. Vedran Chaluka and Ilano are both expected to return for the game at Oakwell. Manager Mark Hughes is taking nothing for granted, though, despite their lowly status in world football.
We have another opportunity against a side that obviously will come and trying to make it difficult for us because they've got nothing to lose, as was the case over in the Faroes. So we need to make sure that we approach it in the right way, be competitive, be professional, get the job done, and then we can look ahead to the games of the weekend and the ones that we have to follow.
We'll have full match commentary here on BBC Radio Manchester of that game and an interview with Hughes right after the Rugby League Hour, which starts at 7, and coverage of Halifax against Salford in National League 1. If you've still not got a ticket, you can pay on the gate tonight at Oakwell. It's £15 for adults or £5 for concessions. Gareth Barry's proposed move to Liverpool could yet go ahead, despite Aston Villa stating it will be staying with them. Liverpool failed to meet Villa's deadline to agree a deal, but Villa manager Martin O'Neill and chairman Randy Lerner are due to meet Barry and his agent for talks later this week. Tottenham have reportedly held talks with Spartak Moscow striker Roman Pavlyuchenko. The Russian met representatives from the North London club last week, although no deal has been agreed yet. Someone who has become a Spurs player, though, is the former Arsenal midfielder David Bentley, who's joined from Blackburn for an initial £15 million. Oldham striker Lee Hughes is set to miss the start of the season after breaking a toe in training. The injury is expected to keep him out for 2 weeks, meaning he'll not play against Millwall in the season opener on August the 9th. And finally, in Rugby League, Warrington forward Vinnie Anderson can miss the rest of the season with a shoulder injury he picked up in the defeat against Huddersfield. Anderson is now awaiting the results of a scan to see whether or not he will play again this year.
John Thompson in a world of his own.
These were the original hoodies, were monks, you see. Meadlouts. They were banned from wearing their hoodies. Hoodless habits. So it'd be like a casual monk.
Right.
Sports cars monk. You know, cap sleeve, maybe a bit of a Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen of the monk era. That's my theory. That's what it was. It's habitual. Do you get it?
John Thompson.
My granddad used to have one of those things. A little Swiss cottage. A lady would come out with a basket of flowers, and a man would come out with a bowler hat and a brolly.
Yeah.
Well, they're working overtime at the moment.
John Thompson's take on the world.
What is the world coming to?
Saturday from 11 on BBC Radio Manchester.
Yeah, very good day to you. Are you all right? Good. Yeah. Neil in Bevington says, torture? I can take about 2 hours of torture, me. I usually manage to get it between 12 and 2 on weekdays. Some things are a bit predictable, aren't they? Thank you. Marie in Droylsden, can we have a competition to see who pays the least with water meters? Mine's 23 per quarter from 76. It's fabulous. When you say 23 a quarter, 23 what? A quarter. Gallons, litres, pounds, pence, shillings? Doesn't help. Brian in Wigan, if you think the Saudi regime is evil, 3 other countries have far worse human rights records. China, Cuba and Iran. These countries are pure evil, in my eyes. So says Brian in Wigan. Bill in Macclesfield. Hiya, Bill.
I'm doing that, are we?
I'm all right.
Listen, I've heard you just telling that chap about the facts regarding travellers and such like. And that's, but basically, I've come on to talk about the Germans.
Go on.
But first of all, about the travellers. I hope for your sake you do not get a Diddy car and his gang camping out on your driveway.
So do I.
Because it'll cost you a fortune to get shut of them. It's not just a case of going through the law. It could cost the landowner or the house owner a fortune.
It can.
And there's no benefits or free.
No, there's nothing. It's an absolute nightmare.
So it needs a law changing actually. Where there's a carte blanche case, they should be carted off. Anyway, I want to move on to this German business regarding the hotelier. Was it Crete or somewhere?
I think it was, yes.
Yeah,
Crete.
When I first heard that, I was bloody fuming, to be honest with you. I thought, Germans again, you know, but I've been sat down with a coffee, thinking about this matter. It struck me as I've travelled the world in modern times, recent times, and to be honest with you, I've never met, and I'll probably get locked up for racism here, I've never met a more uncouth nation than the British. They eat like pigs. Now, I'm not talking about, I'm not generalising, it's not everybody, but because most of them don't even have a table at home, they're used to slobbing out over the bit of a tray on the knee. The kids are running wild. Having thought about it, I think to myself, well, if this guy's got enough Germans and they want a bit of peace and quiet and decency, there may well be a reason why he's doing it. That's all I want to say, basically, Alan.
Well, there may be a reason why he's doing it, but if that's the case, let him decide not to sell his holidays to travellers from the UK.
Well, that I would agree with. That I would agree, but we don't know the full facts.
No,
But
we
I'm
don't,
only
but-
talking about generalisation. And when I go abroad, I go to some very poor places. I've been to Eastern Europe. I've seen some really poverty people and been in bits of cafes and what have you, poor hotels. And when they all sit down, they sit down with a meal, and they can manage to eat in a decent and sort of not refined, but a decent manner. I go in with a crowd of English people, and before you know it, they're slobbering about. There's chips on the floor. There's this, that, tomato sauce all over the tablecloth. The children, as soon as you see children, Alan, to be honest with you, they're like just left to their own devices.
Well, it's interesting.
I can starting to understand when I'm thinking about it. It isn't like when we were kids 40 years ago.
No.
It's a totally different world out there now.
It is. There's a piece in the Mail today. I'll read the first couple of paragraphs, if I may. A decline in parenting skills has created a generation of children without moral boundaries, a teachers' leader said today. Philip Parkin warned that teachers are increasingly forced to discipline bad behaviour and take on the role of bringing up parents because parents too often pander to their children's demands. In other words, we've said this 1,000 times, you and me, Bill, and others sat here have said, the problem with parenting today is parents have suddenly come into this idea, or had this idea come into their heads, that they're supposed to be their children's friend.
True.
Well, you're not.
You're not.
I can remember saying to me dad and me mum, I don't love you anymore. And they said, that's sad, now do as you've been bloody well told.
This is absolutely right, because, I mean, if a child spots any weakness, he'll
have it, yeah. Well, I never spotted any, Bill. Never a jot. The only weakness I wish was in a really good mood. She just hit you with her one hand. Have a good day.
Mum would have had a good strap ready.
Oh, it's always the way. Cheers, mate.
Bye-bye.
0161 228 2255. Mike in New Mills. Hiya, Mike.
Hello there. 2 quick points on your water meters.
Yeah, go on.
The first one, the surface water is the water that comes off your roof, down your gutters and down your drain pipes, and off your footpaths.
Yeah, we knew that.
The second point is that these people who are bragging about how little their water meter is simply saying that they don't bathe very often and they don't wash very often, because the minimum rate is about 40 gallons per person per day. And if these people are using a lot less, then they don't bathe very often.
Well, I don't blame them. It's bad for you.
If you think so.
Well, it is.
It's bad for the rest of us because you bloody smell.
Well, there's nothing wrong with smelling. I really get peed off with all this. When did it become the norm? And I don't know why it did, but when did it become the norm that we would bath or shower every single day? Why?
As a favour to your fellow countrymen. And
What do you mean
the
a favour if we all...
people around you, so they don't have to put up with your body odours.
Well, let's have a think about this. Body odour was something that nobody knew anything about until 1950, when Lifebuoy toilet soap decided to create the concept of body odour in order to encourage people to buy their crappy soap.
Are you pretending that nobody smelt somebody else's body odour before that
I'm not
time?
pretending nobody smelt somebody else's body odour. I'm pretending, because I know it to be factual, that nobody cared. There were people who were absolutely rank, but frankly, most people, before the 50s, most people, if they were measured by today's standard, smelt. But because everybody was like that, they didn't smell. Like dogs don't smell, cats don't smell, pigs don't smell. They smell to us with our delicate nostrils, but until the 50s, when this god-awful bloody company convinced us all that we... Do you remember the advert they used to say, P-O? Until then, everybody had it, so nobody had it.
No. It was still offensive, whether you...
No,
whether
it wasn't.
It was to some of us. It was to some of us.
Well, you shouldn't be such big Jessies and live in the planet like everyone else.
No, we just clean. We just prefer
What
to
do you mean, clean? No, clean? What does clean mean?
Clean means getting the sweat out of your pores, and so that you...
Do you really think that the human body can't deal with that? Do you really think that the design of the human body is so bloody bad that it's the only creature on Earth that actually doesn't want to smell like itself.
No, look, all wild creatures wash themselves and clean themselves.
No,
and
they,
I'm only saying
I'm
that
sorry,
we
they
should do
don't.
the
They
Of
don't.
course
When
they do.
they groom.
Oh, bloody hell.
When did you last see a snake in the shower? Apart from that one, and that's quite small. When did you last see a snake in the shower? When did you last see a cat doing anything other than grooming itself?
And if you ever go to anybody's house who has a cat, the minute you open the door, you know there's a cat
It
lives in
smells
that
of
house.
cat. Yes, it smells of cat.
So I'm
but
proving
the
the point.
alternative, but just a minute, the alternative is you go in there and all you can smell is bloody chemicals created by the people who make napalm.
No, I'm not suggesting that you spray all these perfumes to cover one smell with another smell. I'm saying if you wash yourself, then you don't have a smell, so you don't have to cover yourself with aftershaves and perfumes.
Well, Mike, we shall have to agree to differ, but I think we should get back to the place where humans smell like humans, dogs smell like dogs, and the people that sell us poisonous burning chemicals to destroy our pores with should go bankrupt. Have a good day. 0161 228 2255. You actually see people at the gym and they put stuff into their bodies, really. They put it under their arms and things like that, which blocks their pores so that their pores, their sweat glands, cannot work. Like as if sweating was some kind of wicked thing. It's not. It's natural. Indeed, it's not just natural. It is absolutely essential to health. Absolutely essential to health. These bloody advertising companies and these god-awful stink manufacturers have actually created an idea in our minds that we should smell like some kind of chemical factory. It's vile. You walk through a modern department store like Kendall's or Selfridge, if any of that, and there's some harridan dressed like a tart with 400 weight of crap ladled upon her ugly mug, spraying shite at you and saying, would you like this? No, I wouldn't. What I'd like is to hit you with a bloody cricket bat. What I'd like is to have all you lot shifted from the ground floor so I can come in your shop without having to hold me bloody breath as you sit there trying to sell me crap so that I don't smell like a human being. What a bloody pointless exercise. 0161 228 2255. You may have noticed I don't wear scent. I don't wear aftershave. I don't wear any of that crap. Because, frankly, it's crap. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I don't even know why anyone does. But there you are. Each to their own. Using your reasoning, said Kevin, for not having capital punishment, i.e., we can't be 100% sure of their guilt, we can never be 100% sure the person to be tortured has the information required. You're absolutely right, Kevin. You're absolutely right. My question stands. Is it ever justifiable to torture? I don't think it is. But do you? Always the question. Brian says the Germans often pay considerably more for their package holidays and consequently sometimes get a better standard with more facilities offered to them than the British, who go for cheap deals. As with everything, you get what you pay for. Fair enough. But shouldn't you be told that there is a better standard available in that hotel if you wish to purchase it? David in Crumpsall, of course white slavery is mentioned nowadays. Somebody said it wasn't. It's just not mentioned by name. But it goes on. How many times a week do we read or hear of Eastern European women and girls being kidnapped and trafficked round the world? Just because they're not sold on Middle Eastern slave markets doesn't mean it's not white slavery. Indeed so. And in fact, the term slavery is used frequently, isn't it? It is used as sex slaves. Makes it seem almost acceptable, doesn't it? Conrad said, I've got a 2-bedroomed house in Chatterton, Oldham, no meter and pay. Are you ready for this? £11.32 a month for water, £135.84-ish Could it be the cheapest rate in Manchester? I've no idea. Could I be less interested? No, definitely not. I don't care who's paying the least, as long as I'm not paying the most. See you tomorrow. Ta-ra now.
For Manchester Business.